The number one reason that people worldwide go to see the doctor is because of pain. Now, that should come as no surprise to anyone. But what will be a surprise is that 86% of the body has no pain reception whatsoever. That's why people don't usually go into the doctor's office and say, "Hey doc, the right side of my colon hurts today." It's got no pain reception on it. So let's talk about what is pain, what causes pain, and how you know if pain is getting better or worse. So first things first, pain is all perceived by a very, very small thing. It's a cell. It's smaller than a pinhead. And the particular cell that causes pain is called a nociceptor. So let's say, for example, that I put my hand on a hot stove. The first thing that will happen is that nociceptor in my finger will fire. Then what will happen is that particular impulse will then travel by the tract of Lissauer all the way from my little finger and into my neck. And from there, it'll travel from the neck up the spinothalamic tract into the thalamus, from the thalamus to the medulla, from the medulla into the cortex. So as you can see, pain has a really long way to travel. Now from there, it'll then go from the brain and it'll give your hand a reflex and your hand will pull back from that hot stove. So in order for that little nociceptor to fire, a couple things have to have happened. You have to have irritated that nociceptor enough to fire. So for example, if I'm tapping on my finger, it's not going to fire. However, if I tap a little harder and push a little harder, that nociceptor will fire. That's what it requires for it to just go off in the first place. Once it's gone off, you're going to feel pain until you actually do something to make it feel better. The way you know how long you've had a pain is by how far it's traveling. So for example, let's say that I just had a little pain right here, and I ignore it. It probably started out as one small little spot, but you ignored it because you had things to do. Now it will travel to a larger area. From that larger area, if you continue to ignore it, it will travel further. It will travel all the way down to your foot, for example, until you do something about it. The reason the pain will decide to travel into a further area is because if it doesn't travel, there's no change. If there's no change, your body isn't going to register that anything has happened. Everything in the body goes by change. Because so many things are happening at once, it has to have some way of regulating what to pay attention to. So for example, that little pain here, if you ignore it for long enough, the nociceptors say, "Hey, I've already sent the signal, you're not going to do anything about it." Now they go, "Okay, let's send it to a bigger area." Now, you ignore that for a while, no change, it'll wait until you push it further. Then it will travel to a further area. So the first thing that you want to know about pain is that if it's gone from a smaller area to a larger area, that's very bad. That means that you've let it sit there for a really long time. Now the next thing you want to know is about the intensity of the pain. If pain goes from a dull ache to a throb to a sharp shooting pain to a stabbing pain, then it's getting a lot worse. The intensity of those symptoms tells you quite a bit about that pain. You want pain to travel from stabbing, sharp shooting, to a throb, to a dull ache, to a twinge, to a stiffness, to gone. It has to follow all those qualities. So when your doctor asks you, what does the pain feel like? It's very important that you qualify it, because that will tell the doctor, well, how long has that pain been there, and what can we do about it, and what structure is affected. So speaking about structures, let's say I have a little pain right here, and it's sharp shooting, stabbing, but it only travels this little distance. Well, in that case, it's probably a ligament, because ligaments will send a sharp shooty pain just a very small distance. Let's say you have a sharp shooting pain and it travels all the way down the arm. Well, then we know it's a nerve, because that's the only structure that travels that far. So in telling your doctor where the pain is and the quality of the pain, you'll know if it's a muscle or if it's a ligament or if it's a nerve. Now, let's talk about the frequency of the pain. One of the most common things that we hear in all of our offices is, "I thought the pain was going to go away." And maybe it did for a day. Maybe you felt the pain on Monday, and then you don't feel it again until Friday. That doesn't mean that that nociceptor is happy with you. It just means you haven't taken it to the next level. You just haven't pushed it far enough for it to register a change. The problem is still there. You just don't feel it. So, let's say you had that pain on Monday. You have it again on Friday. Now all of a sudden you have it again on Saturday. Have you noticed the frequency is increasing? If the frequency of the pain is increasing, your problem is getting worse. If the distance it travels is increasing, your problem is also getting worse. If the intensity of your pain is increasing, your problem is getting worse. So what does that tell you? If the intensity, the frequency, or the duration of that pain is increasing, you really need to do something about it. Or you could be very smart and not wait for those things to happen. It's kind of like having a run in a stocking. If you take care of it right away, you don't get a rip all the way down. But if you wait, you have to throw those stockings out. So when you're talking about pain, let's say it comes out as like a little lower back pain, and now you're noticing it's not just your lower back, it's also in your foot, but you have a problem. You need that pain to travel from the bottom back to the top to where it started from. As it does that traveling, sometimes the pain will feel more intense. That's very, very normal. It needs to go back to where it started from. Now, if you're worried about, well, I had pain a month ago and now it keeps coming back, you definitely need to go see someone about that. Because that pain isn't going to get better on its own. The most dangerous phrase we ever hear is, I thought it was going to go away. Now, if you want that pain to go away, stay tuned for the next segment where we talk about what you can do to alleviate it.